Hello everyone. Today our topic is Meniere's disease part 2. We have already discussed Meniere's disease, introduction, idiopathogenesis and the mechanism, and also we have discussed the variant of the Meniere's disease. They are some like Lermoise syndrome, cochlear hydrops, vestibular hydrops. These are some variant and clinical feature. Up to clinical feature we have described Meniere's disease in part 1. And now we will discuss on differential diagnosis, examination, investigation and treatment. And at last we will discuss some points, that is major points, which is helpful for our entrance examination. And finally we finish our this lecture with some MCQ which I have posted in this video. Before going to start our differential diagnosis, examination, investigation and treatment, we will just have a short review on Meniere's disease, which we have already discussed in part 1 of the Meniere's disease. That is slight anatomy and its mechanism, how the triad of symptoms like vertigo, sensorineural hearing loss, tinnitus, oral illness, these are occurred in Meniere's disease. We have already discussed in part 1 of this lecture. Now, we will start. Let's skip differential diagnosis for the some time. We'll finish first slight review of my first lecture, that is about Meniere's disease. So let's start anatomy. This is the anatomy of the cochlea, and this is generally cochlea is circular in shape. So this is the cross-sectional study of the cochlea, and here we also see how the Meniere's disease mechanism occur normally. So let's start from here. Cochlea has three compartment like space, that is this is scala vestibuli, and the middle one is scala media, and the lower one is scala tympani. This scala vestibuli and scala media are separated by this membrane called as Regener membrane, and scala media and scala tympani are separated by this membrane called as basilar membrane. These scala vestibuli are generally filled with perilymph, and this is also filled with perilymph, that is scala tympani is also filled with perilymph, but scala media is filled with endolymph. And endolymph are secreted by this layer. These are the vascular layer present within the scala media, and these are called as stria vascularis. Generally they secrete endolymph within the scala media. Now let's study the mechanism of Meniere's disease. When excessive amount of endolymph secreted due to vasodilation within this layer, that is within the stria vascularis, there is increased amount of endolymph within the scala media. This leads to increased pressure within the scala media. So pressure get increases, and due to this pressure the Regener membrane get bulge due to the pressure of endolymph, get bulge and finally get rupture, and this rupture leads to the mixture of perilymph and endolymph. This perilymph is generally have higher concentration of the sodium ion, and endolymph has higher concentration of potassium ion. The mixture of these ion may depolarize this organ of Corti placed above the basilar membrane within the scala media, and may lead to the symptom like vertigo, sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. These are the triad of Meniere's disease. Sometimes patient may feel oral fullness, that is excessive pressure may lead to the oral fullness of the ear. Now let's see another picture. This image is given in Dhingra book. This is the normal condition where the Regener membrane is normal, and this lining, this is scala media and this is scala vestibuli, this is scala tympani. There is no abnormality in the Regener membrane, but in this figure, this is the figure of Meniere's disease patient. there is the regional membrane get bulged out due to accumulation of endolymphatic fluid, endolymph, within the scala media, and this increases pressure in this cavity, and finally this membrane get ruptured. So we have seen that this figure, this is the figure of Meniere's disease patient. Let's also we have the definition of Meniere's disease, that there is dilatation of this membranous labyrinth which is present within the bony labyrinth. So let's see. This is the healthy inner ear, and this is the ear having Meniere's disease, and there is the dilatation of this cochlear membranous and this sacroiliacal, and also the membranous layer of the semicircular canal. And due to this dilatation, there is abnormal information going through the vestibulocochlear nerve, so that the symptom like vertigo, sensorineural hearing loss, and tinnitus occur. So the mechanism are finished here. Now we will study the differential diagnosis of Meniere's disease. Now differential diagnosis. We have the classical triad of the symptom, that is vertigo, tinnitus, and sensorineural hearing loss. So these types of symptoms may be present in other disease. Mainly they are associated with the inner ear disease. So we have listed the differential diagnosis of this symptom. We can suspect, first of all, Meniere's disease is most common for these types of symptom, and then syphilis, and then labyrinthitis. It is also the inflammation of inner ear, and then labyrinthine trauma due to fracture of temporal bone. Since the labyrinthine or the cochlea and semicircular canal are present in vitreous part of temporal bone, so the fracture may lead to the trauma within the labyrinthine, and may leads to this triad of symptom. And also we can see in Cogan syndrome. We will discuss it later on, Cogan syndrome. And also we can see this symptom on labyrinthine hemorrhage due to blood dyscrasia, and also in acoustic neuroma, meningioma. Generally, these types of tumor are present within the cerebellopontine angle lesion. Multiple sclerosis is also one of the differential diagnosis, and the symptom like vertigo, tinnitus, and sensorineural hearing loss may also be present in hypothyroidism and hyperlipidemia. Now we will discuss Cogan syndrome. Cogan syndrome. This is the non-syphilitic interstitial keratitis. Generally, initial stage of Cogan syndrome, there is involvement of keratitis, that is interstitial keratitis. Cornea is involved with the vestibulo-auditory dysfunction later on. Vestibulo-auditory dysfunction may occur. It is present with photophobia, lacrimation 1 to 6 months before vestibulo-auditory symptom develop. That is vestibulo-auditory symptom like vertigo, tinnitus, sensorineural hearing loss, they occur later on in Cogan syndrome. That is after maybe after 6 months. Now we will study diagnosis. So how we can make a diagnosis of Meniere's disease? Meniere's disease can be diagnosed by a clinical history taking method, and further we can go through examination and investigation. So for vertigo, we'll take a history of frequency, duration, and severity characteristic of vertigo attack. Duration of hearing loss, whether it has been changing with time or not, for sensorineural hearing loss, and whether there had tinnitus or fullness in either or both ear. For the tinnitus or ear fullness, we ask these types of questions. When the history has been completed, we go through examination and investigation. When we have asked these three symptom history, then we go through examination and investigation. Let's study the examination of Meniere's disease. On examination, first of all, on otoscopy, there is no abnormality seen in tympanic membrane. Nystagmus. This nystagmus is generally horizontal and beats towards the unaffected ear. that is normal air. It beats towards normal air. On tuning fork test, Rini test is positive, that is AC is greater than BC. Air conduction is greater than bone conduction. Weber test. In Weber test, the sound generally lateralized to the normal air, and airborne conduction it is decreased or shortened. In Sacho-Batch it is decreased or shortened. On investigation, as pure tone audiometry, we can found sensorineural hearing loss in early stage. In early stage, there is low frequency sound affected first. That is a rising curve. We can see rising curve within the graph. On later stage, there is higher frequency are affected. That is flat or falling graph, downward graph. This is the upward graph from low frequency. Speech audiometry. Discrimination score is 55 to 85% between the attack. That is between the attack, the discrimination score in speech audiometry is about 55 to 85%. The word like feet and seat. The word like feet and seat. F-I-T, feet versus seat. The patient can discriminate between these types of word. However, discrimination ability is most impaired during an immediately following an attack. A special audiometry test. On some of the tests which are in a special audiometry test, recruitment test is positive, and short increment sensitivity index test, the SISI score is better than 70% in 2/3 of the patient. Tone decay test, normally there is decay of less than 20 dB. This is the pure tone audiometry graph. In initial stage, the lower frequencies of the sound are affected. That is, it is around this types of frequency, that is 500 to 50. This frequency are affected because in Meniere's disease, first of all, scalar media inner part are affected, and the higher frequency sound are not affected. But with the time, both higher frequency and lower frequency are affected, so the curve is flat. And with the time passing, lower frequency curve remains same, and the higher frequency sounds get affected more and more, so there is falling of the curve. So there are mainly three types of curve. That is A curve, which is where this lower frequency are falling, and this is a rising type of curve. This is flat curve. B type of curve is the flat curve, and this is falling type of the curve. On number 4, that is electrocochleography. Electrocochleography is the most sensitive and diagnostic test. Here is summating potential upon action potential is 1/3, that is 0.33 or 33%. Normally, in the condition, summating potential upon action potential is less than 30%, but in Meniere's disease, this value get increases, that is, it is greater than 30 to 40%. Calorie test. Reduce response on the affected side in 75% of cases. So canal paresis, reduce response on affected side. Glycerol test. Generally glycerol is the dehydrating agent, so it acts as osmotic diuretic, and it reduces endolymphatic pressure and improve the vertigo and hearing, which we can see on electrocochleography. Let's see the figure of electrocochleography about summating and action potential. This is the normal ear graph of electrocochleography. Here we see this is the summating potential. After that, there is a spike of action potential, and this action potential is 3 times greater than summating potential. That is, summating potential by action potential ratio is less than 30%. in normal cases. But in Meniere's disease, the submitting potential increases and the action potential remain as the same, so that SP, that is submitting potential by action potential ratio, is greater than 30%, and it is seen in Meniere's disease. Now we study about treatment of Meniere's disease. The main aim of treatment is to relieve vertigo, since the hearing loss is sensorineural hearing loss, which is fluctuating type. That is, after attack, the hearing loss is not present after attack. Some of the general measures can be adopted for the treatment of Meniere's disease. That is, reassurance. We should reassure the patient to relieve anxiety, and we should give the knowledge about the disease and disease process so that the patient does not get anxious. And also we can give anxiolytic like diazepam. Cessation of smoking can prevent vasospasm. Low salt and water intake. Avoid coffee and tea and alcohol product. Avoid stress. Bring lifestyle modification. Medical management. Since the aim of treatment of vertigo is to manage the is to relieve the vertigo, so that we should immediate relieve the vertigo by using labyrinthine sedative or vestibular sedative. Some of the labyrinthine sedative are promethazine, cinnarizine, prochlorperazine, dimenhydrinate. And for other drugs are vasodilator. Generally it increases labyrinthine blood flow by releasing histamine. Most commonly used vasodilator is beta-histine hydrochloride. It is most commonly used, and also it is used in chronic condition. Chronic attack. It is also used in chronic attack. Chronic attack. Other vasodilator are inhaled carbazole, that is 5% CO2 with 95% O2, nicotinic acid, thymoxamine, histamine drip. These are used in acute attack. Diuretic. Furosemide 40 mg can be used in Meniere's disease patient. Diuretic with fluid and salt restriction can help to control the recurrent attack if not controlled by vestibular sedative or vasodilator. If the vasodilator and vestibular sedative are ineffective, then diuretic like furosemide can be used for the recurrent attack. Other drugs are propanthenol bromide, phenobarbital, and these are other effective alternatives. Also hyoscine. Labyrinthine exercise. One of the exercise called as Coxey-Cawthorny exercise for the adaptation of labyrinth. Other surgical management. Surgical management can be divided into 3 subtopics, that is hearing preservation and balance preservation, hearing preservation and balance ablation, and hearing ablation and balance ablation. So in first case, we have to preserve both hearing and balance, that is endolymphatic decompression. Decompression means to release the pressure within the endolymphatic cavity. This can be done by mastoidectomy, simple mastoidectomy, and use of diamond bore to expose the sac below the posterior semicircular canal, and release of some endolymph so that the pressure can decreases. Other method is endolymphatic sac shunting. The endolymphatic sac shunting is used to drain the endolymph to the subarachnoid space. Other are sacculotomy. Sacculotomy has one of the procedure called as Fick procedure. In Fick procedure, in Fick procedure, in Fick procedure, procedure, saccule is punctured with the needle through a stapes foot plate. Cochlear duct piercing by round window is the another method. Hearing preservation and balance ablation. Chemical labyrinthectomy. The drugs like gentamicin can be used, which is vestibulotoxic, causes destruction of the vestibular labyrinth. Hearing ablation and balance ablation. This is total labyrinthectomy and section of 8th nerve. Now, this is the figure of mini 8 device. In mini 8 device insertion, there is the grommet, which leads to press this round window so that there is compression of the perilimb and the endolymphatic membrane get compressed, so there is slight release of pressure. This is also called as intermittent low pressure pulse therapy. It is low pressure pulse generator. Pressure pulse transmitted to the round window by grommet displace endolymph, relieve endolymph hydrops so that the symptom like vertigo, sensorineural hearing loss, and tinnitus get relief. Some of the points that are asked in entrance examination are: Meniere's disease is characterized by episodic vertigo, fluctuating hearing loss, sensorineural hearing loss, fluctuating tinnitus, oral fullness, emotional disturbance, headache, and anxiety. Pulsatile tinnitus. Pulsatile tinnitus can be seen in glomus jugulare, AV shunt, aneurysm, stenotic atrial lesion, may also occur in secretory otitis media. Fluctuating hearing loss can also be seen in this is the mnemonic Google spam. G for glue ear, G for glue ear, S for syphilitic labyrinthitis, P for perilimb fistula, A for autoimmune disease of inner ear, M for Meniere disease and its variant like Lormois syndrome. These are the diseases where fluctuating hearing loss can be seen. Now, Tullio phenomenon can be seen in Meniere's disease, superior canal dehiscence, perilimb fistula. We can also remember the laterality and common in male or female condition. Otosclerosis, generally it is bilateral and more common in female. Bell's palsy, it is unilateral and equal in both sex. Acoustic neuroma is unilateral condition and it is also equal in sex distribution. Glomus tumor more common in female. Meniere's disease generally unilateral, but in Meniere's disease there is controversy about it is common in male or common in female. By the book called as P.L. Dhingra book and other entrance book, it said that it is more common in male, but by the Nepalese writer book like Srivastav and Oxford EMT book, it is more common in female. Now, it is the treatment portion. Vasodilator use. During acute attack, the vasodilator like Carbogene, it is the composition of 95% oxygen and 5% carbon dioxide, and histamine, which is contraindicated in asthmatic patient, can be used during acute attack of Meniere's disease. But during chronic attack, nicotinic acid and beta histine can be used. These are some MCQ question. Meniere's disease is, now we can say, it is endolymphatic hydrops. Endolymphatic hydrops is seen in, it is this is the answer, Meniere's disease. Chromosome responsible for hereditary Meniere's disease is chromosome number 6. We have talked in etiology of Meniere's disease in hereditary causes. Meniere's disease is characterized by, there is of course presence of vertigo, then there is hearing loss and tinnitus. The answer is D. This is the answer. Chromosome responsible for hereditary disease is chromosome number 6. Meniere's disease is manifested by all of the symptoms except there is absence of otorrhea, but the symptom like vertigo, deafness and tinnitus is present. Common presenting manifestation of Meniere's disease are all except. The manifestation are tinnitus, vertigo, sensorineural hearing loss, but loss of consciousness is not present in Meniere's disease. Let's stop the topic Meniere's disease by here. Thank you.